are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, October 15th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to click on that Super Chat button to create a Super Chat of any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. I will acknowledge it, and it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining, between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. Also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So news broke about well, actually, before we do that, let's just do the breaking news thing here. So I was going to just talk about the Jets-Bills game from last night, but news broke as I came out of the bathroom to my dad watching First Take. I see on their segment title for First Take is that Davante Adams is being traded to the Jets. So I immediately am like, okay, well, I guess that's what we're starting out with today. So we're going to talk about the Jets-Bills game. We're going to talk about Davante Adams being traded to the Jets now. Get into all that in a second. We'll also get into some of the other games from this weekend. We'll talk about the Browns-Eagles game. We'll get into talking about the Steelers and their win over the Raiders. We'll get into talking about the Colts-Titans game, and then get into the Sunday Night Football game between the Giants and the Bengals. So that's the rundown. Let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Jets, Bills, and Davante Adams. Well, let's get into the Davante Adams news. So, yeah, it's been kind of mixed signals these last couple weeks because it was like, all right, well, the Raiders are fielding offers, and you see all these different teams that are involved. You hear the Steelers, the Bills, the Jets, of course, were the front runners, and then all of a sudden it was coming out that maybe Davante Adams isn't going to be traded at all. So then you're like, all right, well, is he staying put then? And the Raiders, they made the change. Now Aiden O'Connell's the starter at the moment. But then all of a sudden today, the Jets make a trade, and they get Davante Adams. So never mind, he was in fact going to get traded, and he is going to be traded. So now the compensation for that. So it'll be for a conditional third-round pick that can go to a second-round pick. So, the Jets really didn't have to give up that much to get him, if this is what the trade ends up being. But, yeah, it's going to be finalized today. Davante Adams comes over from the Raiders, pairs up with Aaron Rodgers, and, of course, those two have had a ton of success together over the course of their careers. Davante Adams, rookie back in 2014, and in Green Bay, it was a little rocky at times. Packer fans at one point didn't want Davante Adams on the team because he just, was nothing in his second year. Really, didn't really contribute, but then really upped his game and got back on the right track. And then between 2016 and 2021, they were great together. Rodgers and Davante Adams. That became Rodgers' go-to guy in Green Bay. And then, of course, he goes to the Raiders to play with Derek Carr, and then we know how things went there. And then Rodgers, plays one more year in Green Bay in 2022 and then gets traded to the Jets, gets hurt last year. And this year it's kind of been of a mixed bag so far. Last night he was good, but the Jets ultimately lost the game to the Bills. But now Davante Adams comes in, and you pair him up with Garrett Wilson, with Allen Lazard, who's been good this year. Breece Hall had a good game last night. So, yeah, you kind of like what the offense is looking like at the moment. The problem with the Jets, now let's just get into the game. And we're going to continue to talk about Davante Adams and this trade. Once it is finalized, we'll get into we'll get into more of it during the week here. But let's get into the game, though, from last night. The Jets did not lose this game because of their offense. There were missed opportunities, but I do put the blame on the defense. I do put the blame on special teams and just really in general, lack of discipline. Because there were so many penalties in this game, on both sides, really. Both teams had 11 penalties. It was flag after flag after flag after flag, and it got so nauseating. And that was kind of all the difference. That was really the main difference in the game. When it came to this, because late in the game, the Jets, they were going to go ahead, at least 26-20, because the wind was really whipping last night, and Braylon Allen scores a touchdown, right, late in the game. Would have put the Jets up by a touchdown, barring the extra point. And Tyron Smith gets called for a holding penalty. They get pushed back. They don't score, and they don't get anything. Greg Zuerlein lines up for a field goal, and he misses it. The Jets beat themselves last night. Both teams had 11 penalties. And the Jets had one turnover. It was the interception late in the game by Rodgers. I think it was on 3rd and 16. But this was a big game for both teams. And the Bills, they've been reeling these last couple weeks. This was a big win that they picked up. But, yeah, so the Jets on their first two drives, they scored. Zuerlein kicked a field goal, 34 yards. And then Rodgers connected with Garrett Wilson in the back of the end zone for a touchdown from 5 yards out. Threaded the needle on that. Originally, it was ruled incomplete, but after review, Wilson was in bounds, and it was 10-7 Jets at that point. But, yeah, the Bills on their first drive, to answer the Jets' field goal drive, Josh Allen scored a rushing touchdown from 1 yard out. And once again, that Jets' run defense was really a no-show. So, yeah, it was 10-7 after the first quarter. Then the Bills, they went 10 plays, 90 yards down the field. They were they were backed up deep in their own territory, and it was 2nd and 10. Josh Allen just throws up a prayer to Ray Davis, who had a nice game, the young the young running back, for 42 yards. Made a great catch. There was illegal contact on the play, but yeah, the Bills obviously declined it. But yeah, then the Bills continued to go down the field. And Josh Allen connected with Matt Collins for 8 yards. And Tyler Bass missed the extra point. So it was 13-10. Then, before the end of the half, the Bills got another 7, which was huge to put them up 10. And you thought, okay, it's going to be 20-10 at the half. Allen connected with Dawson Knox for a 12-yard touchdown. And, yeah, so it was 20-10. Jets get the ball. And Aaron Rodgers did it again. Another Hail Mary. He throws it up 52 yards. Allen Lazard comes down with it. Now, at first, you see the ball, rolling away, and you think, it just came out. It's incomplete. But then they show the replay, and Lazard had control of the ball when he came down with it. It was just at the very end. They just, knocked it out. And it ended up being ruled a touchdown. So another Hail Rodgers. That's his 4th Hail Mary of his career. He hasn't done it. The last one he did was in 2016. To Randall Cobb. So at that point, you're like, wow, okay, all right, the Jets are still in this game. So it was 20-17 at the half, and that's what I said the final score was going to be. although I had the Jets winning. Then the Bills, Tyler Bass ended up missing another field goal. And then Zerline did make a field goal. Breece Hall had a 42-yard run on this drive. So, yeah, it was a 22-yard field goal. So that tied the game. Then this was the first Zerline miss. So you had 16 yards to Garrett Wilson, another 23. Then Buffalo gets penalized. But, yeah, they get to the Bills' 4, 3rd and 2. Braylon Allen scores. And that would have been huge for the Jets. But, of course, Tyron Smith gets called for the holding. And then Zerline misses a 32-yarder. Then to the fourth quarter. Jets again are driving. Vera Tucker gets called for an offensive holding. That sets him back. But then Rodgers threads the needle on 3rd and 11 to Alan Lazard. I don't know how he did it. That was a great throw. Great catch by Lazard. I mean, it's amazing how Lazard looks with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Because last year he was just a non-player. They get into field goal range. And Zerline misses yet another field goal, which I knew was going to happen. So, well, there was a delay of game penalty after the Lazard completion. But, I mean, Zerline's got to make that kick. So he misses it. Then the Bills, of course, they go down the field. And they kick a field goal on 4th and 3. Make it 23-20. And then, yeah, so it was on 3rd and 16. Rodgers throws it up for Mike Williams. He slips. And if he doesn't slip, I think he catches it. He ended up getting hurt on the play, but Taron Johnson, who the Bills got back, who's missed some time with injury, he actually picked it off. I was surprised that he was able to. That was a great play by him, and that was basically the end of it. The Bills iced the game. 3rd and 4. I mean, Josh Allen's going to run with it, and he did. And Clemens, I believe, on the Jets took a bad angle on it, and he picked up the first down. And that was the end of the game. And the Jets lose. They dropped to 2-4. The Bills improved to 4-2 on the season. But like I said, the Jets, they beat themselves in this game. Penalties is really the main reason why. And Greg Zerline, I mean, you got to make those field goals. Rodgers had a good game. 23 of 35, 294 yards. Still did not pass for 300 yards. We're still waiting. The last time he did it was 3 years ago, which is crazy to think about. But that's the last time he threw for over 300 yards in a game. 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. Not really going to fault him on the interception just because, you're trying to, get some kind of big play. Breece Hall had a good game. 18 carries for 113 yards. Alan Lazard, 6 for 114 and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 8 for 107 and a touchdown. Only 2 sacks by the Jets defense. Zerline went 2 for 4 on field goals, which proved to be costly. Josh Allen was efficient, 19 of 25, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Ray Davis, like I said, had a good game, 20 carries, 97 yards. He was also their leading receiver, 3 receptions for 55 yards. Bills defense, 3 sacks in this game. Rodgers still taking too many hits. So for both teams, the Bills, they go home, they take on the Titans, which I think they should blow them out. And then for the Jets, they will be taking on the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, so that should be an interesting game. But yeah, like I said, the Jets beat themselves. And it's unfortunate because the offense actually played probably its best game of the season. You had Breece Hall running the football effectively. Garrett Wilson played really well. Alan Lazard played well. Rodgers played well, but it didn't matter. The defense, not as good as it was last year. They some of the guys that they did not bring back on the defensive line, it's proven to be more of an impact than people realized. Look, the Davante Adams trade, it really helps this team, but at the same time, they're still losing games. Now, they're not completely out of it. They still have a chance to, right the ship and get things back on track here, but they got to start winning games. And, the schedule does get soft, but, I mean, every game is close, other than the 49ers game. I mean, they lost to the Broncos, a game they should have won. They had a chance to beat the Vikings at the end, even with Rodgers throwing 3 picks. They lose that game, and they lose this game. This game they really should have won if it wasn't for penalties. But that was not the case. They end up losing, and they dropped to 2-4. The Bills, they get back on track. So I expect them to destroy the Tennessee Titans this upcoming week, depending on who's at quarterback, because Mason Rudolph could be starting the way Will Levis is playing. And don't worry, we'll get to the Titans later on in the show. But I was ignoring Andre this whole time. He said, does this trade hurt or help Garrett Wilson, fantasy-wise? I mean, I feel like it's going to be one of those things where, like, you know, Davante's going to have a big game. Garrett Wilson is going to have a big game. It's gonna be a week-to-week thing. I'll say it does help him because then defenses will focus more of their attention on Davante Adams than Garrett Wilson. So that opens up more one-on-one matchups for Garrett Wilson. But then there could be other times where, you know, Davante's having a huge game and Garrett Wilson really doesn't get the ball. So it's a mixed bag, really. So, I mean, depending on what league, if it's a redraft or a dynasty. I mean, well, dynasty, now you're going to keep him. But, you know, maybe for redraft, maybe you try to see if you could work out a trade to maybe improve your team in other areas. I don't know. That's just me. But, yeah. Let me know what you guys think, though, about this game, about the Davante Adams trade. Huge news there. But, you know, the Jets now are 2-4. So, and they're actually now in third place in the division. The Dolphins passed them. So, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Eagles-Browns game. Browns continue to struggle. We'll talk about all that when we return. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Eagles-Browns game from Sunday. The Eagles picking up a 20-16 victory, and I think that was the score. That was a score from last week, 2 weeks ago for the Browns when they lost to the Raiders. But yeah, the Eagles kind of struggled in this game to put the Browns away. Yeah, that is what the score was, 20-16. But, yeah, I mean, look, for the Eagles, you know, like, you got to win, but I still don't feel great about them. I really don't. You know, Jalen Hurts, 16-25, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Saquon Barkley had a quiet day, only 47 yards on the ground. Hurts had 33. Kenneth Gainwell had 23. But you did get A.J. Brown back and Davante Smith. That's huge. A.J. Brown, 6 receptions for 116 yards and a touchdown, and had the big catch at the end that iced it. Davante Smith had 3 for 64 and a touchdown. Also, Grant Calcaterra, he had 4 receptions for 67 yards. Dallas Goedert left this game early with an injury, so that's why Calcaterra was getting more involved. The Eagles' defense did have 5 sacks in the game, but yeah, it's just the Eagles still don't look impressive to me right now. A lot of punts to start off the game. The Eagles did score first with a 49-yard field goal by Jake Elliott to make it 3-0. Then the Eagles went up 10-0. That was A.J. Brown's touchdown, a 22-yard touchdown. Browns put together a field goal drive. Dustin Hopkins from 43 yards out. And the Eagles actually were driving. Forgot about this. They were driving towards the end of the first half. It looked like they were going to go up by at least 10. And Hopkins' field goal ends up getting blocked, and the Browns returned it for a touchdown by Rodney McLeod. So it was a tie game at the half. Then the Browns, they go down the field. They get to the Eagles' 34-yard line, and Hopkins misses a 52-yarder. Eagles and Browns both punt. Eagles kick another field goal. Elliott from 44 yards out. Then the Browns answer. Hopkins kicks a 49-yard field goal, so it's tied going into the fourth quarter. Eagles put together a touchdown drive. Hurts to Davante Smith for 45 yards. And then the Browns kick yet another field goal. Costly penalties, just leading to them saying, let's just kick the field goal and try to get a stop. And they did not get a stop because Hurts then connected with A.J. Brown for 40 yards. And that was it. And the Browns, once again, do not score an offensive touchdown in this game. Against the Raiders, they scored a defensive touchdown. Here, they score a touchdown on special teams. They just cannot score. And once again, Kevin Stefanski, no, we're not making a change of quarterback. Not making a change of quarterback. Deshaun Watson's still our guy. Really? Now, you could look at it and say, all right, well, and people have said this, that Stefanski's not making this call, that it's coming from upstairs. Because upstairs, they have made a huge investment on this quarterback. So that does make sense. Now, we don't know for certain, but it does kind of make sense. But, I mean, do the Browns want to win football games? Now, I'm not saying, you go to Jameis Winston and immediately oh, yeah, this team is, a sure lock for the playoffs now. They're going to turn it around. Well, they're 1-5 right now. No, but Jameis Winston would definitely make this offense better. Deshaun Watson, the way he is right now, he is not helping this team. And look, you could point to some injuries that the Browns have, and there's a lot. The offensive line, once again, is ravaged by injuries. They're supposedly getting Nick Chubb back this week, which is huge. But you got to figure something out at the quarterback position. And it's funny because we did talk about this in our production meeting last week, the one that I was at before I got sick. And I believe it was last week. And it was why did the Browns just not bring back Flacco? And I don't remember if I brought it up on the show, but, you hear that, they didn't want to bring back Flacco because they didn't want to have that QB controversy if Deshaun Watson didn't play well. And the fans were begging for the Browns to put in Flacco. So they're like, we're not bringing him back. We're bringing Jameis Winston. And that's ridiculous. And look at what Flacco's doing. We'll talk about him later in the show. He's won 2 games for the Colts. The offense was better with Joe Flacco than Deshaun Watson. And Joe Flacco is one of the, few remaining QBs from the last generation. Now he's a backup, but he could still win you games. The Browns made a mistake there. And, it's, I don't know. And I get it because you invested so much in Deshaun Watson, but you got to pull the plug. He's not playing well. Look at these stats. Look at these stats from the other day. I got to switch things around here. So just bear with me here. But under 200 passing yards, no touchdowns, at least he didn't turn the ball over. But he's not doing anything. He's not the guy that they invested all that money into. It's going to go down as probably the worst contract in NFL history. And Russell Wilson was happy about that because it probably would have been him. But I mean, he's up there too. But I mean, he's not playing well, and I don't see it getting better. Now, I said, going into the year, that I thought, all right, maybe he'll win you some games, and you're gonna have to live with the turnovers and things like that. He's gonna be inconsistent, is really what I'm trying to say. But he hasn't been inconsistent. He's been consistent. Consistently bad. He's not good. This is not the same guy. And I'm looking at his stats. He has not had a game where he's thrown for over 200 yards. Every game is under 200. 169, 186, 196, 176, 125, 168. And you're just going to continue to lose games here? Now, next week, they take on the Bengals at home, which, to be honest, for some reason, the Browns give the Bengals a hard time in Cleveland. So maybe they can win that game. But then you got back-to-back hardballs. You got John in Week 8 and then Jim in Week 9. Those are losses. Then you got the bye week at the Saints, home against the Steelers, at the Broncos, at the Steelers, home against the Chiefs, at the Bengals, home against the Dolphins with Tua, and then at the Ravens. There's a lot of losses in there. They don't make changes. Now, again, you bring back Nick Chubb, that helps. But you need to figure something out at quarterback. And I think you got to put in Jameis Winston. But they're not going to do it. I think at some point they will. But, I mean, when? Right now they're 1-5. Where are the wins coming from? Like I said, maybe next week because they own the Bengals in Cleveland. But where are they coming from? I don't know. And then let's just talk about the Eagles for a moment here. So something interesting that happened was, fans were calling for the Eagles to fire Nick Sirianni. So at the end of the game, he's clapping back at the fans and he's yelling something at the fans after they won. Dude, you beat the Cleveland Browns. They're not good. They're not a good football team. Right now, your team is not that good either. Yeah, your record, you got a winning record, but team's not very good right now. The offense is still off. Jalen Hurts is still not playing great. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over, thankfully, but you barely got by the Browns. They have not impressed me. Their most impressive win this year was against the Saints. Because the defense played really well, and had they cashed in, that game would have been a lot more lopsided. Because the Eagles put up almost 500 yards of offense in that game. So, I'm not really impressed by the Eagles. And, they still haven't played anybody in the division yet. They will be playing the Giants next week, which is going to be a very interesting game. We'll talk about the Giants a little bit later. But, yeah, the Eagles have not impressed me. The team that's the most impressive in that division, it continues to be Washington, even in a loss. They lose to the Ravens. I'm more impressed with them than the Eagles winning against the Browns. The Browns had an opportunity to win that game, despite their offense not being able to score touchdowns. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, though, about this game. What were your takeaways from it? So, before we go to break, just want to remind you guys, once again, tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to click on the Super Chat button in the chat. This will help create a Super Chat of any thought or comment you may have throughout the show. I will acknowledge it. Just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link that is displayed at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. And there it is, how you can see on the ticker, because I feel like every time I do this, it's always off of the ticker, but there it is right there, GSMCpodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we will talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Raiders. We'll talk about the Steelers and their win over the Raiders. So make sure to stick around once again, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Steelers-Raiders game from Sunday. The Steelers putting up 30-plus points in this game. Who would have thought? 32-13 over the Raiders. The Raiders, of course, they made that quarterback change. They went to Aiden O'Connell now with Gardner Minshew struggling, which not really surprised by. I figured at some point we were going to see both quarterbacks, and, who knows? I mean, if Aiden O'Connell struggles, then maybe they go back to Gardner Minshew. But the Raiders need a quarterback. And now, Davante Adams is gone. So, that's a playmaker they lose. But, yeah, I mean, the main thing the Raiders need right now is a quarterback. And, yeah, so let's kind of go through what happened in this game. So the Steelers, they got the ball first. They went right down the field. A 52-yard field goal by Chris Boswell, who's been money this year. The Raiders actually did respond, put together a nice drive, 10 plays, 70 yards. And Alexander Mattison scored a 3-yard touchdown to put them up 7-3. Both teams punted. Steelers put together another field goal drive, 49-yarder by Boswell to make it 7-6. More punts in this game. And then the Raiders fumbled. And it was recovered by Benton. It was caused by T.J. Watt, recovered by Benton. And then the Steelers, they turned that into a touchdown. That was a Justin Fields rushing touchdown from 3 yards out. They went for 2 and did not get it. And then the Raiders turned it over on downs, got the ball back, and their punt was blocked. Steelers turned that into a field goal. Boswell from 37 yards out. Then the Raiders punted again. Steelers went 7 plays, 80 yards. Najee Harris, 36-yard touchdown run. He had a good game, so that's big to get the running game going. Raiders then fumbled at the Steelers' 1-yard line. Amir Abdullah fumbled, caused by T.J. Watt once again, and recovered by Deshaun Elliott. So, yeah, the Raiders just turnovers were costly in this game. Then in the fourth quarter, the Steelers punted. Aiden O'Connell threw an interception to Dante Jackson. Looked like that was going to be returned for a pick six, but he was tackled at the 4-yard line. And then Justin Fields ends up scoring a touchdown to make it 29-7. Raiders did put together a touchdown drive. O'Connell connected with Wilkerson for a 9-yard touchdown to make it 29-13. And then the Steelers, one more field goal by Boswell to extend the lead. That was a 36-yarder, made it 32-13, and that was it. Looking at the Steelers, Justin Fields, no touchdowns, no picks, went 14-24 for 145 yards. The Steelers ran the ball for almost 200 yards, 183 yards. Najee Harris got it going, 14 carries for 106 yards. and a touchdown. Justin Fields, 11 carries for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. They got Jaylen Warren back. He only had 7 yards on the ground, but you figure he's going to have better games going forward. And then George Pickens was their leading receiver, 3 receptions for 53 yards. Calvin Austin, 2 for 36. Pat Fryermuth, 2 for 16. Najee Harris, 2 for 16. Steelers defense, surprisingly only 1 sack in this game. They're still missing some guys on the defensive line that you hope they get back soon. Alex Highsmith, hopefully get him back. And then as for the Raiders, Aiden O'Connell, 27 of 40, 227 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Madison, 33 yards on the ground and the touchdown. Amir Abdullah, 24 yards on the ground. Brock Bowers, he's been good these last couple weeks. 9 receptions for 71 yards. DJ Turner, 2 for 37. Madison, 5 for 32. Bachman, 3 for 31. Harrison Bryant, the other tight end, 3 for 24. Christian Wilkerson, 2 for 18. Amir Abdullah, 3 for 14. Trey Tucker had 2 targets, did not catch either of them. Amir Abdullah had 2 fumbles, 1 for a loss. 1 fumble lost in this game. Raiders defense 3 sacks, but yeah, they had that win against the Ravens, and you thought, okay, look at the Raiders, but then they lose to Andy Dalton and the Panthers. They almost lost to the Browns. I mean, they could very easily have 1 win. They could very easily be winless right now. Had the Ravens not blown that lead and the Browns, that Amari Cooper touchdown doesn't get called back, they could be 0-5 or 0-6 right now. And then they got the Rams this upcoming week. Then they got the Chiefs, the Bengals bye week, possibly Tua Dolphins out of the bye, Broncos, Chiefs again, Buccaneers in Tampa, Falcons, Jags, Saints, Chargers. So, I don't really see a lot of wins in there. So, they're looking at maybe like a 5-win season. I had them winning 8 games. See, there were teams that I were more optimistic about, and then there were teams that I shouldn't have been as optimistic with. Because the Jags, I had them with the losing record, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like they're going to bounce back. I was wrong about that, because they might win 4 games this year, the Jaguars. The Raiders, I have them at 8. And I had the Jaguars originally at 8. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to bump them up to 9. Have them finish 9-8. No. That doesn't look like that's happening. But the Raiders, yeah, it looks like this is going to be another bad season for them. Now with Davante Adams being traded, I mean, they really are waving the white flag on the season. That doesn't mean, I expect them to win some more games here, but not that many. They're going to be a team that's picking in the top 10 for the draft. So for the Steelers, though, they get back on track. Some encouraging things. See the running game get it going. They're going to have to use that to their advantage against the Jets because the Jets, they struggled to stop the run this past week. So the Steelers are going to have to take advantage of that. They're 4-2. Tied with the Ravens for the top of the division. And, Justin Fields still for the moment is the starter. The Steelers, the games that the Steelers lost, they could have very easily won those games. The Colts game, they were playing catch-up the whole time, but the Cowboys, I think they should have won that game. On a 4th and goal, you shouldn't have been able to stop them, but, the Cowboys end up winning that. So, the Steelers are kind of where I expect them to be right now with the schedule. They got to continue to take advantage of this part of the schedule because we're getting to that point where they get to that second half of the schedule, which is absolutely brutal. When they play, the teams in their division, they play the Chiefs. They play the Eagles and Philly, which is going to be tough, even though I think they could definitely win that game the way the Eagles are playing. So, the Steelers continue to find ways to win. And look, I still think they're going to get to those 9 wins. I still think that Mike Tomlin will finish with a winning record this year. Because looking at their schedule remaining, got the Jets and the Giants, both home games on prime time. You got Sunday Night Football next week with the Jets, then Monday Night Football the following week against the Giants. Then you got the bye week. But then, this is actually a tough game, though, which wasn't originally, and that's the Commanders. That's going to be a tough game. Hopefully you get your guys back on the defensive line like Highsmith. You're going to need it because Commanders are a good team. And then you basically have everybody in your division plus the Chiefs and the Eagles. So Steelers hopefully can get at least one or two more wins between now and Week 11 when the gauntlet starts. And then you go from there. But, I mean, even saying the gauntlet, the Browns, I mean, who knows? Maybe Jameis Winston's starting at that point. But I think you can win those games. They always find a way to beat the Ravens at least once. So I could definitely see them doing that. The Eagles, I mean, it's going to be a tough game, but I could see them winning that. Eagles have not impressed me. The Bengals, maybe they split. And, the Chiefs at home, it's going to be a very tough game. It's going to be a very tough game. But, look, the Steelers are 4-2 right now. I still see, like, if they split if all their divisional opponents, they win one of the Jets-Giants games, that's 4. And they get another win in there, that's 5. And look at that, you're 9-8. I still see 9-8. I'm not stepping away from that. Not like with the Jets right now, because the Jets, I might. Well, it's funny because I was saying to myself, yeah, I'm done with the Jets. That's it after last night. But then all of a sudden I see, oh, they get Davante Adams. Well, now I got to stay on it. No, either way I got to stay on it. I got to stick with it. I'm still in the storm. It hasn't been kind to me. It really hasn't. When they were 2-1, I was like, okay, all right, now let's build off of that. But they've gone down since that 2-1 start. But they've only been beating themselves. So, but we talked about the Jets already. With the Steelers, though, like I said, I still think 9-8 is what they're going to finish with. But we'll see. They got it. Like I said, they got to get healthy on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive line, is dealing with injuries, and that's not good. But, I mean, Fields still deserves to be the starter. The Steelers are still winning games. He's not putting up monster numbers. I would like to see them try to add another receiver, maybe. They're missing another weapon on this team. I mean, again, nice to see the running game get it going, but they really do need to address the receiver position. Get another receiver in here. Give Justin Fields another weapon. And then, they should be good to go. I mean, this team, I think, will be in it for a wild card. I know I keep saying 9-8, but, you look at the AFC right now, and it's not as much of a gauntlet as we thought originally, because you got, certain teams struggling. The Dolphins with Tua being out, the Bengals getting off to their brutal start. The Steelers got an opportunity here. So, we keep talking about that second half of the season, but you know what? The Steelers can definitely win some of those games. But only time will tell. So, let me know what you guys think, though, about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So, when we come back from our next break, we will discuss the Colts-Titans game. Joe Flacco leading his team once again to a victory. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about this game from the Titans' perspective, too, as Will Levis continues to struggle. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Colts-Titans game from Sunday. The Colts picking up the win, 20-17. And there was no Anthony Richardson in this game. Once again, it was January Joe Flacco. And did what he was supposed to do. Got the Colts to win. I think, looking at his stats, didn't put up monster numbers, but again, did what he was supposed to do. The Colts, they were missing Jonathan Taylor in this game. Didn't know if we were going to have Michael Pittman either, because he's dealing, I believe, with a back issue. So it looked like he was going to be out for a couple weeks, but he ended up playing in this game, and he had a nice touchdown catch where he mossed the Titans defensive back. But yeah, the Colts picked up the win here. They improved to 3-3 on the season. They have now won 3 of their last 4 games after starting off 0-2. They very easily could have, well, I shouldn't say very easily, but they could have beaten Jacksonville and they would have been 4-2 on the season. They only lost by 3. But, Flacco has, done what he was supposed to do. Get the Colts back to 500. They got the Dolphins this week. Anthony Richardson, I think, is going to be back, so that's huge. And that is a home game, right? That's a home game for the Colts. And it's a big game because then after that, they really got some tough games coming up. Because then they're in Houston. After this game with the Dolphins, they're in Houston playing the Vikings in Minnesota, then the Bills at home, on the road against the Jets, and then home against the Lions. It's a tough schedule coming up. So this is a big game coming up for them against the Dolphins. But let's kind of go through the game summary. So Colts, they went right down the field on their first drive. Joe Flacco connected with Josh Downs for a 22-yard touchdown. That was set up by a 22-yard reception by Mo Alley Cox. The Titans punted. Joe Flacco then threw a pick. Titans turned that into a touchdown. Will Levis connected with Westbrook Akine. Not DeAndre Hopkins, not Calvin Ridley, not Tyler Boyd. Not even Treylon Burks. Westbrook Akine. So that made it 7-7. And then the Colts punted. Titans put together a drive that resulted in a Nick Folk 44-yard field goal. So look at that. The Titans were winning at that point. Both teams punted. Colts put together a field goal drive, a Matt Gay 26-yard field goal, so that tied the game. So it was 10-10 at the half. Titans then opened up the second half with a nice drive. 14 plays, 70 yards, almost 9 minutes of time possession down the field. And interesting that on 3rd and 19, they ran the ball, and Tony Pollard took it to the house for 23 from 23 yards out. They didn't even want to throw it. They were like, let's just be conservative and take the points. But Tony Pollard ended up scoring a touchdown, so that was big for the Titans at that moment. Colts then went down the field. Matt Gay kicked a 22-yard field goal, so that made it 17-13. Titans punted, and then the Colts, they went ahead. Like I said, Flacco connected with Michael Pittman for 10 yards. A great catch by Pittman. And both teams exchanged punts. Will Levis threw an interception trying to hit Ridley. And then more punts. And the Titans got the ball last, and they did a bunch of laterals, but it didn't result in anything. And the Colts ended up picking up the win. So Flacco, went 22 of 38, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tyler Goodson, I don't know why I keep saying TJ. Tyler Goodson, 8 carries for 51 yards. Trey Sermon, 18 for 29. Josh Downs had 7 receptions for 66 yards and a touchdown. Mo Alley Cox, 4 for 41. Michael Pittman, 3 for 35 and a touchdown. Colts defense, no sacks off of Will Levis. And then Will Levis, speaking of, 16 of 27 for 95 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The Titans ran the ball for 146 yards. Pollard had a nice game, 93 yards on the ground and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins in the receiving game, 4 for 54. Tyler Boyd, 3 for 19. Calvin Ridley targeted 8 times. 8. No catches. And the Titans defense, no sacks in the game. No sacks in the game in general. Wow. And Calvin Ridley at the end of the game, used some profanity, but he was talking about how he wanted to get more involved in the game. Was clearly not happy about what's going on with the team and his contribution or lack thereof. Well, my thing is this. I think signing with the Titans was a mistake for Ridley. I don't know what other teams were offering him contracts. I mean, he probably went to the Titans because they offered the most money. But if I was Ridley, I probably would have went to a better team. Again, I like the skill position players for the Titans, but ultimately, what is holding them back? It's the quarterback. Will Levis is not good. He has not played well this year. I mean, he's been a walking meme. I mean, you see the posts on social media. Every week, it's a new screenshot of something that he did. Week one, it's putting his hands over his head when he throws that pick six against the Bears, the backward shuffle pass to Tajay Spears. Then against Green Bay, there was a turnover, and you see the Green Bay players on top of him when he's on the ground. I mean, every week it's something new. The only game they won was against the backup quarterback where Mason Rudolph just handed the ball off the whole time. And it worked. And here they try to do the same thing because they don't trust Will Levis. Like Tony Pollard, he scores that touchdown, that was great, but it was on third and long. And they just didn't want to risk Will Levis throwing a pick. He's not good. He's not good. And the Titans, they're going to be a team that is going to be looking for a new quarterback. I was willing to give Will Levis another chance because, this is his second year and, new system. They added some more talent around him. Even though, I mean, look, Tony Pollard's been good, but, I mean, you see what Derrick Henry's doing in Baltimore right now? But, yeah, I just thought that, maybe he'll be okay. He has not been okay. He's been bad. And, I was saying maybe the bye week will help him. I know he got hurt in the game against the Dolphins, but maybe the bye week's going to help him. No. The bye week did not help him. 95 passing yards. And this Colts defense has not been good this year. So, the Titans might be a team that, makes a change at quarterback. I think they should. Because now, they go play the Bills in Buffalo this upcoming week. And did you see how the Bills dismantled the Jaguars? One of their AFC South compadres? The Bills are going to do the same thing to the Titans. So, yeah, the Titans, they're another team that's just going to... Yeah, they're going to be picking... They're going to be picking in the top 5. You might see 2 AFC South teams picking in the top 5 this year. Really. With the way things are going. But, yeah, it's just... And you wonder, could DeAndre Hopkins get traded? Because I know he's been a conversation of trade rumors. I know the Chiefs were connected to him. I mean, he signed Tyler Boyd and Calvin Ridley. I mean, they're kind of locked in. They're stuck there. But yeah, I mean, this offense is not good, but it really falls on the quarterback, in my opinion. Because I do think if they had a better they had a better quarterback in place. I mean, this team does not only have one win. But Will Levis is just not that good. He's not. Really, ever since that debut that he had, I mean, he hasn't been great. And he shows flashes where you're like, oh, that was a good throw. Oh, okay. But the bad has really outweighed the good. And I think he might be benched sooner rather than later. Now, you would think the Browns would do that with Deshaun Watson, but here's the thing. Deshaun Watson, huge investment. Will Levis is on a rookie contract. They could bench him and look somewhere else. And it could be in the top 5 this year. So, yeah, not a good game for the Titans. The Colts, look, the Browns, you should have not let go of Flacco. Sorry. Should have kept him. But they didn't want to. They didn't want to. So, but yeah, the Colts get back to 500, but yeah, their schedule gets tougher. So, getting back to 500 was big. Titans continue to search for answers, and you're not going to find your answers when you take on the Bills, because that game could get ugly very fast. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the Sunday night game between the Bengals and the Giants. A very low-scoring game. We'll get into all that, how that game went down, as the Bengals did pick up a win that they desperately needed, and the Giants once again continue to disappoint their fans. So we'll get into all that when we come back from our final break of the show already. So, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Bengals-Giants game, the Sunday Night Football matchup. Talk about the Bengals picking up a 17-7 victory, a very low-scoring game. So let's get into the specifics of it. So the Bengals, I mean, they're not where I expected them to be. Their offense has been playing really well in recent weeks, but their defense has been one of the worst in the league. And they really need to pick up a win here. Giants coming off of a big win against the Seahawks in Seattle. And, once again, I thought, hey, the Giants could win this game, but, show me something. And once again, they show me that they cannot take that next step. And this Giants YouTuber that I watch puts it perfectly. They do just good enough to keep you invested. And they won't take that next step. And this was an opportunity to do that. But they just couldn't do it. They lose a low-scoring game. They only put up 7 points. And Daniel Jones just continues to show you that he's not the guy. And he cannot win in prime time. He can't do it. So the Giants' defense was awesome in this game. Was awesome. And that was one of the things that I said you got to be excited about if you're a Giant fan, is the defensive line. And they had their way with Joe Burrow, except for this one play that happened. So the Bengals got the ball first. And, they sacked Joe Burrow. 3rd and 18 from the 47. You're thinking, okay, at worst they're going to give up 3 points, but oh no. Defense was not expecting this, but the defense goes one way, Joe Burrow scrambles the other way, and he takes off with it, and he scores a 47-yard touchdown. Joe Burrow, not Lamar Jackson, not Jalen Hurts, not Josh Allen. Now, Joe Burrow is mobile, but you know what I mean. Like, you don't expect Joe Burrow to do that. But yeah, Joe Burrow ends up scoring a 47-yard touchdown, and the Bengals go up 7-0. And that was pretty much the only touchdown they had for the whole game until the end. But it was 7-0. Both teams exchanged punts. And then the Giants, they're putting together a good drive, right? They're moving the ball, 14 to Tyrone Tracy, who had a good game. Wan'Dale Robinson, 15 yards. But then Jones does something that he continues to do. He's getting hit. And instead of just taking the sack at that point, he just throws it up and it gets intercepted. And the Giants don't get any points out of that. And now the Bengals, they didn't turn it into anything. But that's points off the board. And the Giants left a lot of points off the board in this game. Bengals punted. Then in the second quarter, all punts. All punts. And we went to half, and it was only 7-0. Then the Giants, they get the ball. 4th and 2 from their own 38. They go for it. And it ended up being incomplete. Jones trying to hit Wan'Dale Robinson. However, the Bengals ended up fumbling. Zach Moss ended up fumbling at the Giants' 26. Recovered by Micah McFadden. And they turned that into a touchdown drive. 16 plays, 79 yards down the field. And, the Giants went for it on 4th down a couple times and converted, which was big. And Tyrone Tracy scored a touchdown from 1 yard out. He had a good game. And that tied the game. However, the Bengals, they went right down the field on their next drive. Burrow connected with Jamar Chase on a nice pitch and catch. The Giants looked like they were going to get to Burrow. He scrambled out, tossed it downfield to Chase. Chase made a nice play. And then Chase Brown ended up scoring a touchdown later in the drive, but there was a holding, so that got called back. Burrow ended up getting sacked, and then McPherson ended up kicking a 37-yard field goal. So that made it 10-7. Then Giants get the ball. They're driving. They get to the 28. And Greg Joseph misses a field goal. So, both New York kickers did not have a good week. 47-yarder, he misses. And the Giants, once again, do not get any points. Then, Bengals punted. Giants turned it over on downs. They went forward on 4th down again on 4th and 2. And Jones could not connect with Darius Slayton. And then the Bengals, they basically iced the game. Well, Chase Brown, he fumbled after the Bengals picked up a 1st down, but the ball went out of bounds. So the Giants had an opportunity to get the ball, didn't get it, and then on the very next play, Chase Brown takes to the house from 30 yards out, and that was it. Oh, and also, Giants did get the ball back, and they were going to kick a field goal, and then try to go for the onside kick. But, of course, they don't get the field goal. Joseph misses another field goal. And they end up losing 17-7. A lot of missed opportunities in this game. Plays got called back. Darius Slayton had a big play in this game that got called back for a penalty. But the Giants, once again, they prove. You look like, hey, did they turn the corner? No, they didn't. Well, their defense has been playing really well. Leads the NFL in sacks. But their offense continues to be lackluster. Daniel Jones, 22 of 41, 205 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. Giants ran the ball for 119 yards. Jones had 56 yards on the ground. Tyrone Tracy had 50 and a rushing touchdown. Darius Slayton, 6 for 57. Tyrone Tracy, 6 for 57 as well. Wan'Dale Robinson, 5 for 50. Theo Johnson, the tight end, 3 for 30. Micah McFadden, of course, had the fumble recovery. 4 sacks in the game for the Giants. And then for the Bengals, Joe Burrow, And this offense really didn't do much, the Bengals. Excuse me. Trying to clear my throat here. Joe Burrow went 19 to 28, 208 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Had that big rushing touchdown. Chase Brown also had the rushing touchdown as well. T. Higgins was their leading receiver, 7 receptions for 77 yards. Chase had 5 for 72. Yoshi Voss, 2 for 36. Zach Moss had a fumble in this game. Chase Brown looks like he's taking over as the lead back. And then 2 sacks on the day for the Bengals defense. McPherson only attempted 1 field goal and made both the extra points. Bengals improved to 2-4. Giants drop to 2-4. And the Bengals, like I said earlier in the show, they take on the Browns in Cleveland next week. Giants take on Saquon Barkley and the Eagles at home, which is going to be a huge game. Yeah, again, it's like I said, it's just more of the same with the Giants. I do think, if they can get the right quarterback in here, they got something. Because I do think, and the defense was missing Kayvon Thibodeau. And, Brian Burns has been a one-man wrecking crew these last couple weeks. Dexter Lawrence continues to get after the passer. The Giants have a good defense. The problem is they can't score. They cannot score. They scored last week, but they couldn't score this week against a defense that's not good. And I knew that was going to happen because this is what the Giants do. And I knew better because I took the Bengals in my spread pool because I'm like, I don't think the Giants have to prove to me that they can win this game. And they didn't. That's why I didn't pick them last week. It's like when the Giants are better when people doubt them. Because I think people looked at this game and they were like, well, the Bengals defense is really bad. They're not playing well. Giants can move the ball against this defense. Giants can win this game. That's when the Giants don't show up. But when they have that underdog mentality, when they're like, oh, they're in Seattle, yeah, no shot they win this game. That's when they play well. They play well when their back's against the wall. Their backs weren't against the wall in this game. And look, I would love to see Daniel Jones succeed, but look, it is what it is. He's going to finish out the year as the quarterback, and the Giants are going to move off of him, as they should. But the thing is, it's going to be interesting because depending on where the Giants finish, are you going to be able to take a top quarterback in this upcoming draft? Because I don't think the Giants are as bad as their record says. The 2 games that they've won are on the road. Against the Browns, who have a good defense, and against Seattle, one of the toughest places to play. And, the way some of the teams in their division are playing, I think they could beat Philly. They should have beaten Dallas. They should have beaten Washington. They got the Panthers on their schedule. That should be a win. There's games coming up where I'm saying, yeah, Giants probably win that. So, I don't really know where they're going to finish. I still think, they're going to finish close to 7 wins, but that, that's not going to get you a top 3 pick. So, I don't know. But, I love how the defense is playing. I've been very impressed by what I've seen from them. They got some good players on offense. You're going to get Malik Neighbors back. You're going to get Singletary back. But Tyrone Tracy did a nice job. The offensive line's been good. But it's just, quarterback is holding them back. So, and it was funny. My mom said, if you could take the Jets offense and how they played last night and you put them with the Giants defense, you got yourself a good team. And Dable's the head coach, of course. You got yourself a good team. You take the Jets offense now with the Giants defense. But, sorry, we can't do that. So, Giants lose again. Back to their losing ways. Continue to disappoint their fan base. And for the Bengals, hey, look, you got to win. Got to stack them up. Get yourself back to 500. And then it's a new season. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game or your takeaways from it. That's pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows. Give the other shows some love. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. We greatly appreciate it. And, yeah, as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't